Argentinian far-right outsider Javier Milei has won the primary election. Folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. And yes, not exactly far-right, typical of the left. Anything that is not far-left is actually for them far-right. Javier Milei is, at least in theory, a libertarian. That's what he actually calls himself a liberal, but it's not in the American sense of what a liberal is, which is basically a commie. No, like a liberal instead of libertarian, which he feels libertarian is more stigmatizing of what they're truly in favor of, which is liberty, freedom, so liberal. So yeah, but for the American audience, it's a classic libertarian speech that he has. Now, the thing that has me quite a bit concerned is, will he actually follow through with those things, or is it just talking about things he never actually plans on doing, mostly because of actions? You could say lots of things, but what you actually do is what matters. He says he's happy to be like the Donald Trump of Argentina. Donald Trump is not a libertarian. You guys know this better than I do. The messy hair thing is kind of trying to replicate the Boris Johnson aspect, but one of the more telling things is there's almost no content of this man in English. It's as if they want to erase him from the narrative.
Smiles and hugs for a political outsider who's just lit up Argentina's election race. Javier Milei laps up the applause, knowing that he is now one of the favourites to rule the country. They call him La Peluca, or the wig, for his wild hair. Rock anthems always provide the soundtrack to his rallies. The former singer of a Rolling Stones tribute band, an economics professor, promises radical change in a country where two political forces have ruled for decades. People are sick of the cost of living crisis.
It doesn't matter whether it is good or bad manners. Enough of the fallacy of discussing form. Let's discuss content, the content that you don't want and that we have plenty of. I, therefore, invite Argentinians to join the liberal revolution that will make Argentina a world power again in 35 years.
The so-called Mileistas, supporters of Milei, say he's offering something completely different. He's flattered to be called an Argentinian Donald Trump or Jair Bolsonaro. Critics say his credentials are straight from anti-establishment central casting. A long-time political chat show guest draws a crowd wherever he goes. He opposes abortion, denies the existence of global warming, and calls Argentina a tax hell, pledging a rapid reduction in government spending and changing the currency to the dollar.
That's the thing. You're against establishment, and you're against the ruling globalist elites, and you want to get rid of your own currency and adopt the US dollar. That does not align in any shape or form with libertarian values. This is a man that I've heard him talk about, going back to the gold standard. Okay, I'm all for that. So it is great what he says. I agree, and probably you agree. We all agree, especially if you're watching this channel. You probably have somewhat of a libertarian approach to things, about freedom above everything else. We're all sick and tired of the same old politics, and that's what he's been appealing for a very long time. Imagine if someone comes into the scene of U.S. politics and tells you, you know what, Republicans, Democrats, they're all the same thing. I'm going to be getting rid of both. Enough of this bullshit, pretending to be far right, pretending to be far left, and you're all the same. Screw that, something new. A lot of people will be in favor of that. That's what Javier Milei brought in favor of guns, in favor of, not only just in favor of guns, just very adamant about your right to carry a firearm for self-defense as an essential right. The idea of having a real economy, but at the same time, again, I want to see what you actually do. He wants to get rid of the central bank. Yeah, sure, okay. How will you run the country without it? You want to get rid of your own currency because it's a fucking damn piece of paper, fiat currency. Yes, but you're going to be replacing it with a fiat currency that is printed literally by the establishment in the United States. That's your solution. I don't see how that aligns with traditional libertarian speech. A few weird, quirky things regarding children and his dogs being his children and so on, which shouldn't be much of a big deal, but shows you a little bit of the character of the man. And there's also lots of things regarding him having some of the people he's been strongly criticizing within his own political party. There's been accusations of political roles and places in his own lists being bought by people, especially because once you are there, you can avoid some of the legal problems if you're involved in that. So some of the people he's been criticizing the most are actually having candidates of theirs in his own list. We'll see how it goes. Is this better than having the same old Kirchner crap? Yeah, I really hope so. I absolutely would love to see this man do at least half of what he's been promising. It is very concerning that his idea of having a better economy is simply getting rid of your own independence in terms of economy and just relying on the US dollar to run your economy. That would be a disaster. That's just throwing your towel and saying, you know what, we're useless people. We cannot have a real economy. We'll just align with the elite in the most blunt manner and just use your currency. You print those dollars, we'll just use them, and we'll be forever enslaved to you, right? That would be a complete disaster if he actually does that. What he will do or not do, we just don't know. I think this is his sister. So there's some weird things going on with him. There's no candidate that I was loving as in, yeah, this is the guy I want. I think the guy was actually doing best with this guy, who is somewhat of the same vein of Donald Trump, actually personal friend, played golf with Donald Trump, Mauricio Macri. So a more educated, more politically refined, and a lot smarter version of that would have been Mauricio Macri. We'll see what Javier Milei does if he ends up winning. These are the primaries. There's still a lot to go here. The only thing I'm certain of, we don't want this asshole. We don't want another pawn of this woman right here who is a thief. She's a criminal according to the law. She's been found guilty of being a damn criminal, and she cannot even show herself, but she has her minions doing the work for her. Is Javier Milei one of her minions? I don't know. At this point, I honestly don't know what he is or he is not. But anyway, we'll see how it continues developing. But as of right now, Argentina has ahead of the political race, ahead of the presidential race, it has so-called far right, which he's not, so-called libertarian, which he claims to be. We hope that's the case. We'll see if he ends up getting the job. Folks, that's going to be all for now. Again, if you want to prepare, learn about going through this kind of financial, economic, and political mess, that's been my experience, and I've shared this with you guys with Surviving the Economic Collapse. Also, 3 survival skills, both available in Amazon in the link there below. Take care. See you next time.